Uh, I'm saying this out loud, but I'm talking to both of us. So welcome back, to me as well as to you. Um, we've missed some time. I want to say we've missed a week, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, this we skipped a week. Uh, I think the last time we spoke, I had mentioned that we were going to miss a week. I knew I had something coming up or some things coming up. But we'll get into the details of that. Uh, it's always good to come back to this space, come back to this place, and have an opportunity to talk and exchange ideas and thoughts around creativity. And this is going to be an interesting conversation today. I honestly don't know where it's going to lead us, but we'll see. As always, we're going to start off with an exercise in mindfulness, just focusing on your breath, and then just at count of 10, just focus on your breath with each. And we're here. And as always, after that exercise in mindfulness, we always then start off with a puzzle, something like a brain teaser of sorts to kind of get our minds exactly where it needs to be for the conversation. And the one for today is what is harder to catch the faster you run? What is harder to catch the faster you run? I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but it's actually raining. I just started the moment I hit record on the camera, so it'll give us a little soothing background, which maybe it's good for the conversation today. I remember the first episode I did in this particular podcast, and one of the things I discussed was when I'm in a rut, when I feel uninspired and I need to reconnect with my creativity, what are the things I do? And I mentioned two things, and these are my go-to things. They are so reliable. I can go to them at any time, and it'll connect me back to my creativity. The easiest of the two is the color black, going to the color black, darkness, and just kind of spending some time alone with my thoughts in complete darkness, and then creating spaces where I can embrace the color black. And I tried that because I am feeling, or I was feeling, or I still am feeling a little uninspired. I feel unmotivated. I'm not in my creative element, or I'm not my creative self in this moment. So I went to black. And for a short moment, I felt a creative spark, but I don't know that it was enough. So I did the second thing, which I always do, which I know is all reliable. I traveled. And I usually travel to a place that's unknown to me, so it allows me to open up all my senses. We talked about the importance of your senses when it comes to your creativity. And unlocking it. So I generally travel to new places. The place I went to wasn't so unfamiliar to me. In reality, it was extremely familiar to me. But I traveled to it. And similar to the experience I had when I went back to black, there were sparks, but there wasn't a complete resurgence or a complete overwhelming flow of creativity. I just got back a few days ago, and that's part of the reason why we missed an episode last week. And I started to question where I sat um, in regards to my creativity and how truly I knew myself and how to connect to it. Because again, these two things were surefire ways to connect me to my creativity. And I had asked myself, what is different now than any other time? And I was able to kind of pinpoint it. Well, at least I think I have. And as I continue to grow in myself and in my creativity, I can test out this theory that I just came up with. I think for a long time, because I was intentional about being a positive person, I would attract positivity. But as we grow, I think we are influenced by our environment, the people around me, the people we let into our personal space. And I think we take for granted positive people. We take for granted positive environments that together create positive spaces to allow for positive energy to flow. And I think creativity is its most optimal when it is met with positive energy or coexists with positive energy. And I realized that when I went to Black the last time and when I traveled this time, I wasn't in the best positive spaces. It was almost as if though I was there and I was performing the things and going through the motion and the process of chasing my creativity. But energy wise, I wasn't in a positive space. And it's the energy that I was giving off. It was the energy that I was around in regards to the people and the energy and the environment that I was around. And I had a moment on this last trip that I realized that it was the trigger for me, or at least the notification or the warning that kind of brought it to from my unconscious, from my subconscious to my conscious. Somebody was telling me a story about a moment where I was being creative in the times past, in the time past. And as they were telling the story, or at least reminiscing on it, my first thought was there was an opportunity for me to there was in that moment, and I as I'm thinking about it, and I'll get to the details of it as I'm thinking about it. In that moment, I remember tapping into my creativity, and the person who I was creating for appreciated it. To this day, they've reached out to me times past and times before, and how grateful they were, or they are, for that creative experience that we had, and how it was impactful on their own life. But there was a third party in that space. There was another character in that space, and that character, who's unaware of the details of this conversation, the relevance of this conversation, and the why of this conversation, just saw it and saw a creative episode and put a negative spin on it. and they had said, oh, here he is, thinking he's a know-it-all, and that person doesn't need your help, and all these things. I don't even want to think back as to kind of what they said or how they said it. But the two direct parties, one being myself and the other the person who came to me to create this creative moment, both appreciated it. But there was this one party who, unattached and unaware of the details of what's happening, projected their own whatever it is onto that. And they never mentioned it until now. And I started to think back on the experiences I've had with this person, and I realized that they've always been this thing, this underlying whatever it is. And then when I think back on the interactions we've had now, it almost feels like unconsciously or subconsciously, I was always aware of this negative energy directed towards me. And I know that because I am my least creative when I'm around that person. And I just thought, like, I just thought I did it, or my body did it, because this person always like tried to humble me, or always wanted me to dim my light for whatever reason. And to not offend them, I would just kind of almost not be my authentic self, which is weird now that I'm thinking about it. But it's honest. And what I learned about myself in that interaction, knowing all parties involved and being in that space, is even when I'm not conscious from a psychological standpoint, physiologically, my body knows, and it reacts to it, and it adjusts to it, and it acts accordingly, whether I'm conscious of what the origins of it is, or my body reacts it. And this goes back to this idea that the energy in the room, the energy you get from people, the energy you get from anything, impacts your ability to be creative and to actually create. And there's no real tangible measure of it, right? I think it's one of those things, if you were to look back at the moments that you felt the most uninspired, uncreative, if that's even a word, and then you think back on the environment you were in and the people you were surrounded by, and then you ask yourself, how did those people impact that? And then what was the energy in the room, from the room itself and from the people within it? And I think you'll start to be able to make a correlation. And I'm saying this because I can think of other instances where I've gone out of my way to empathize with people, because I understand that empathy is the language of innovation and is a huge component of design. And in order to be able to design and innovate. You need to find your creative self. But in that process of empathizing and showing support and understanding of people in their journey, there are others who don't appreciate that as much. And have felt that I am too good to be a part of something. And there was a sense of negative energy associated with my process. And that too hindered my ability to be creative and create. And I think I'm becoming more and more conscious of it because it's evident and it's obvious now. Right now, if I'm completely honest, my creativity is not free flowing. I don't know if knowing that has impacted my my confidence. I don't know. Listen, if I'm honest, my confidence is one of my strongest characteristics. I have, I know I have, and as much as I'm questioning, I know it's not at its peak right now, and as much as I'm questioning it, I never doubt my confidence or my ability to be confident in any situation. But I don't know that the certainty that I had when it came to my confidence and my ability to create is at its strongest right now. I could say that at its strongest. And I'm seeing it impacting me both professionally and personally. I've been working on a few projects, some for an extended period of time, and some are more shorter projects, and all of them involve some level of creativity. And I remember like one in particular, the long-term one, that has everything that specifically it's Ayunta, my AI-enabled private on-demand e-commerce checkout. We've been working on something for it, for a partnership for it for an extremely long period of time, longer than I would want to. And everything around me in this the lack of positive energy, it almost wants me to believe that I'm even further away from completion than or from the finish line that I actually am, when in reality, when I was in a more positive space, I was more excited, and I'm like, oh, it's almost here, it's gonna happen, like almost like it's gonna happen tomorrow. I'm not, and when I'm in this space where there's a lack of positive energy, my openness to want to, not only does it inhibit or prohibit my ability to create, it almost restricts me to this space where I don't even want to consider other possibilities. I find myself not wanting to take risks, which we talked about how much risk impacts creativity. my openness to different ideas. I almost feel like I'm going from this space of seeing color to now the spectrum just has significantly reduced to just black and white. And I don't know, a huge part of, I think, my purpose, as I've always said, is it's a selfless act. So my gift to the world is something that is greater than myself, and it will not be self-serving, and it is not self-serving. And I think one of my gifts to the world is inspiration. I think I bring inspiration, and I'm able to inspire. But what happens when the source of inspiration, in this case myself, feels uninspired? What do I do? Where do I go? And that's the dilemma that I'm in at the moment. I am conscious of the environment and the spaces that I occupy, and I've been more intentional about where I take my consciousness and with who I share myself and my mind and my spirit and my energy with. And that intentionality has allowed me to kind of just like sit back for a second and not be quick to be out until until I'm sure of the spaces that I want to occupy. And when I'm in those spaces, how can I bring enough positivity that when it radiates, it reflects back on me. I'm saying all this to say what I started with. I think for a lot of us creatives, we undervalue the importance of being around positive people, being in positive environments that facilitate and create spaces that allow positive energy to flow through. And it doesn't matter how we find our creativity, what we do to get to it, and how we showcase it. In an absence of positive energy and a positive vibe, even the greatest form of creativity can be neutralized. And I want us as creatives to be intentional about finding these spaces that are conducive for the level of positive energy we need to showcase not only our ability to create, but our creativity in general. With that said, I don't want to. I feel like sometimes we can go on forever, and I don't want I don't want this to extend beyond where it needs to go. So I'll take us back to the brain teaser, which we usually close off with. What is harder to catch the faster you run? What is harder to catch the faster you run? Your breath. It is harder to catch your breath the faster you run. With that said, continue to be creative. Continue to find spaces that are conducive and enable your creativity, and continue to surround yourself with positive energy. Because whether or not you are conscious of it, negativity and negative energy does impact your creativity, and I, I, I want you to be aware of it so you can identify it and be proactive in avoiding those spaces and those people. With that, I will see you next week. Peace.